All right, late night live stream. I am in my car, but for a very practical reason. I'm cleaning it out, loading up, and getting ready to head out tomorrow morning for John Day, bright and early. And I'm really excited, not just because I get to see my best friend and many other friends, and Angie, Lisa, Lindsay, yay, Jessica. But I am cleaning my car and I'm loading everything up that we need, and I'm listening to songs. And for me, music has always spoken to my heart. It's always been something since I was a child that really motivated me, captured me, got me back on the right track when I was getting off track. And I was listening tonight to my playlist, which is a lot of motivational songs that helped me most of the year go down to the protests that I would host, because most of them, in all honesty, I was uncomfortable and nervous and didn't want to go to. And Lee Greenwood came on, Proud to Be an American. And I'm vacuuming my car and I'm loading up things for John Day, and I'm listening to the words. I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And as I'm listening to that song, of course, LaVoy comes to my mind and really moves me. And what I think a lot of the haters don't understand about LaVoy Finicum is that, hey Deb, I wish I could sleep, but I'm trying to get stuff loaded. I want everything ready to go so when my eyes open, I can get in the car and leave. So the reason LaVoy comes to mind for me is because he and Ammon were really the first two people who taught me that I was free. Before them, I was as much of a sheep as anybody. For all the people trying to figure out who I am or where I've come from, I've spent the last 20 years just a sheep within the system, stuck. And if I drove by a police officer, Doug, multiple times we have actually protested when the jail was doing things that were unconstitutional to our political prisoners. We would not rally, we would protest outside, and I would let them know I was coming to protest and let them know when I was done, like a good sheep. But nonetheless, they were protests. But anyway, most of my life as an adult, I have been a sheep. And as I'm listening to this song, where at least I know I'm free and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, I had this complete clear vision that I wanted to share with any haters out there to help them understand why LaVoy Finicum is so important to us in the Patriot community. For many of us, before LaVoy, we didn't know that we were free. So it's not necessarily that he was with our founding fathers hundreds of years ago standing up in the 1700s for our rights against the king. But in many ways, what he did in 2016 was no different, because he stood up against King Obama, King government, and said no. And I'll even quote Cliven, who said, hell no. And he gave that right to me to be free. So as I'm listening to the song, I'm thinking about how I felt a year ago driving by a police officer versus how I feel today. So a year ago, I would drive by a police officer, and as many of you know, I have police officers and military in my extended family. So I am should be a very, very strong police sympathizer. But that's just not who I am to choose a faction based on blood or extended family. So to me, truth is truth and a lie is a lie. Freedom is freedom and slavery is slavery. But anyway, so a year ago, I would drive by a police officer, and to be quite honest, I was nervous, right? Checking my seatbelt, checking my speed. Am I doing everything right? I don't want to get in trouble. Now I drive by a police officer and I think, you better be protecting my rights. I have nothing to fear. You're not an extortionist by the Constitution's law. You're here to keep me safe as I drive down the freeway. You're not here to dictate and manage my speed, especially if nobody's around and I'm going 3 miles over the speed limit. You're not here to steal my money. You're not here to kidnap my children. You are truly here in a constitutional mindset to keep me safe and protect my rights. That's so different from over a year ago when I would drive by and become fearful that I was doing something wrong. You guys, for all the people who can't understand why Gavin Symes wants to pull over police officers and check in on every cop who's pulling somebody over, it's because he fully understands liberty like our founding fathers understand liberty. He understands that with any amount of power that has no accountability, you will turn into a dictatorship. So the fact that more of our patriots don't pull over police officers and don't check in on them at every stop and make sure that they're not abusing the people is a little bit surprising to me, because I honestly do think of it when I drive by a police officer. I think, I hope they're not just becoming extortionists. I hope they're not just trying to steal those people's money because the state needs more income. I hope they're truly trying to keep the people in this state safe. 90% of all traffic stops are unconstitutional. Most of our prisoners in jail are there because of victimless crimes. Let that sit in. Let that sit in. The people who are in jail are not in jail because there was a victim. It was because they maybe possessed something that the state said they didn't have a right to possess. How can a free person possess something that could land them in jail? How could that be? If they're harming nobody, how can a free man possess a 4-inch knife instead of a 3-inch knife and therefore end up in jail? How can a felon use a weapon to protect himself and end up in jail because he didn't have the right to bear arms? In a free country, how could that be? The reason that our jails are full are not because of corrupt politicians. They are because there are police who are willing to unconstitutionally arrest people and bring them to jail. The politicians don't put handcuffs on anybody. The politicians didn't kidnap baby Holmes. Have you learned about the Holmes story? About baby Holmes, who was literally kidnapped from the hospital because they would not assign a name and a social security number for this baby. Getting to know John Lamb has been an absolute blessing. Getting to know him and all of the people that he has gotten to know has been terrifying. He's been teaching me about people across our country who are in jail because they sold things, home remedies, that the government said wasn't labeled correctly to their standards, and they're spending life in prison. They're not spending life in prison because a politician or a bureaucrat put a law into place. They are sitting in prison because a police officer abdicated their oath to the United States Constitution and arrested that individual. I spent all year visiting the political prisoners in Portland, and let me tell you, the officers there, as nice as some of them were, are not constitutional. If they were, they would have set the Bundys free. They would have let the political prisoners go. They wouldn't have abused them and abused us as they did the entire year. There's a lot of really nice police officers out there, and I love them. And I care about them, and I encourage them to honor their oath, and I encourage them to not participate in being an extortionist because they're told if they have enough traffic stops every month for an entire year, they'll get their pay raise. Their job is not to collect money from me. It's not to collect children. It's not to politically incarcerate individuals. Their job is to protect our rights and make sure that we're safe. So when I listen to a song like Lee Greenwood, who says, I won't forget the men who died who gave that right to me, for me, that will forever be LaVoy Finicum, because he truly gave that right to me of freedom. A year ago, I did not understand that I was meant to be free in this nation, that God has blessed our nation and given us freedoms. And the only reason that they don't exist today is because we have stopped fighting and standing up for those freedoms. That we've accepted slavery, we've accepted extortion, we've accepted abuse and chains for what our founding fathers fought and died for. You guys, if you wave a flag today, please, please, please stop telling me that you support the blue line. If the blue line supported the people, the jails would be empty. The politicians don't hold the prisoners in jail. The police do. And for those in my extended family that are military and police, they hear this from me regularly, where I tell them, you have been brainwashed to believe that any law you are read is constitutional. You have been given an obligation to read the United States Constitution because you swore an oath to uphold it. And any law that is approved through Congress that goes against the United States Constitution is no law at all. So stop pulling people over and extorting them and taking their money, all in the name of, I'm just doing my job. Return the children that you have kidnapped. Set the prisoners free. If there is no victim, there is no crime in a free nation. The government cannot be the victim. It cannot be the victim constitutionally, and yet we see that every single day. I remember the people who gave the right to me to be free. I remember LaVoy Finicum because he went to the refuge, a public facility 30 miles outside of town. He harmed nobody. He was fired at, never returned fire. He was shot at with a rubber bullet from the man in front of the vehicle that then hid in front of the same vehicle. If you watch the video again, watch the man to the right who runs in front of a car, shoots, and then runs back, and then LaVoy drops his hand. If the government wants to talk about a conspiracy, they need to talk about the conspiracy between OSP and the FBI, because they conspired. And the FBI fired, and OSP shot LaVoy Finicum 3 times in the back. That man would have never harmed a soul. And if he was really as scary as the people in John Day are believing right now, then Ryan and Shauna and Victoria would have fired back. They were armed. They would have fired back. When we go to John Day tomorrow, we're going to go as proud Americans. We're going to bring food for the food banks. We're going to bless the people that we see. We're not scary militia. We're proud Americans who remember the men who fought and died to give that right to us. We're not scary. I am, good Lord knows, I am not a scary person. So shame on you, media, for painting us as somebody who is to be feared, because we are people who are to be respected, not to be feared. Not to be feared at all, unless you're a tyrant. So if you're watching this video or you watch this in the future and you're a tyrant, then I guess I understand why the United States Constitution is so terrifying to you. Why LaVoy Finicum and his wife Jeanette and his children Tara and Shalise and all of the individuals who are standing up for him today, why they're so intimidating to you. Get on the right side. Be one of the individuals who will fight for freedoms and liberty before you'll stand before the king and the redcoats and say, I was just doing my job. Because just doing my job is never going to be enough for a truly proud American. Let's be free, you guys. I watched Shalisa's video from the other night, and it was incredibly moving. And she said, we're either going to be free or we're going to die trying. And my spirit so resonated with her. I am going to be free or I am going to die trying. And I surely hope that I get to be free, because in the United States of America, our founding fathers fought that our property would be our own, that we would have the right to travel, that we would have the right to free speech, we would have the right to assemble, we would have the right to petition our government for a redress of grievance. Do you know that in the court with Ammon Bundy, I listened for myself when the prosecution said to the judge, the right to petition your government for a redress of grievance, that's not even legal. He said those words. That's not even legal. A redress of grievance is not even legal. It's in the United States Constitution, the First Amendment, buddy. Read it. Because our government claims to follow it, so just read it. Read it. 8th grader could have understood it, and you don't get it? You don't know what a redress of grievance is? Ammon Bundy tried for months to get a redress of grievance and was ignored and mocked. Ignored and mocked in the United States of America. That's not acceptable. It's not acceptable to me. I surely hope that's not acceptable to you. Whatever it takes to fight for freedom is worth it. It's worth it, and your children will tell you that someday. Thank you for standing up for me, whether you succeeded or not. Thank you for not being silent. Do something today that your kids are proud of. If you're a police officer, do something today that your kids are proud of. Don't enforce unconstitutional laws, even if you lose your job. There's lots of great jobs out there. This is America. Lots of different things you can do besides taking away people's rights and becoming an extortionist for this government. So who fought and who gave me the right to be free? Well, it was God first and my founding fathers. Next, it truly was LaVoy Finicum. January 26th changed my life forever when the United States government decided to fire instead of have a conversation. So tomorrow we head to John Day to honor LaVoy and to meet with his family, and not to intimidate the community, hopefully to bless the community and encourage the community, and to share the love of Christ with the community and also the love of our founding fathers. Be free, you guys. Choose to be free. Learn what it means. Study the Constitution. Teach your neighbors the Constitution. And at all costs, love your neighbor as yourself. Love you guys. I'm going to pack up my car, and we will hopefully see most of you tomorrow in John Day.